YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. It's your man Dame drops back again with another super official reason why you should tune in every Friday to my channel.
He gave us what we needed. He gave us what we needed. That's all y'all nobody get hurt.
That boy got a 2K crowd.
Really didn't have, I would say I had a relationship with God. I prayed as a kid a lot. I prayed for forgiveness a lot because I knew, you know, as a kid, I was doing a little crazy stuff too. I got in my trouble, you know, I did stuff I shouldn't have been doing. I smoked. I was drinking at a young age, at 12, 13, you know, kissing girls and playing house and all that crazy stuff. And I knew it was bad. I felt it in my spirit. You know, God, even back then, the Holy Spirit was condemning that stuff that I was doing. And I didn't, you know, I figured, shoot, if I just ask for forgiveness, I'm good. But that's the wrong way to use the, you know, to call the ambulance. You know, I just kept saying it. I didn't think to pray. I didn't think of none of that stuff. All I wanted to do was breathe. And I remember telling my brother, you know, it had got so bad. I remember telling him, I was like, man, I don't think I'm gonna make it. And that was before the ambulance and everything got there. So, you know, he was saying, don't say that, man. Don't say that. Don't say that. And by the time, I don't know how I got in the ambulance, I could barely breathe. I mean, it was like nothing. And I blanked out. So
has a nice contrast with this roughed up background here. So what I'm going to start doing here is just to squeeze some of this paint from the tube here. And you see that its consistency is very similar to toothpaste, quite thick or quite pastoche. As I'm getting a feel for this paint here, it's quite sculptural. And in fact, you know, I'm actually working as a sculptor here in the palette, pushing this really pastoche, this really stiff paint around. And it's that kind of use of oil here, the sculptural use of oil that we're really going to be playing with. And my first brush load you see here is kind of a scoop, where this is, you know, typically you'd wipe off excess paint from your brush to paint like this. I'm going to use that excess paint. I'm scooping that paint up, almost troweling that paint onto the brush. And as I'm getting ready for the first mark of the painting here, it's just going to be kind of a looping mark. And then I'm going to simply reload and then make a similar one of those marks. And we start to see that, okay, the gesture here was almost identical for those two marks. What kind of gesture is it? It's a movement of the fingers. The wrist is pretty much stationary. The elbow is absolutely stationary. So as we start seeing here, each one of these brush strokes is a little bit different. They're all off-kilter. They're all cousins, you know. In a way, it's the same kind of gestures here again and again. Slow tracing gestures using curves of, you know, the fingers, the thumb, a little bit of the knuckles here. Not really the wrist, not the elbow, certainly not the torso like in Will McCooning. So there is something serial. There's definitely something repetitious about this kind of brushwork. There's something therapeutic about this kind of mark making. There are many legends about Kusama, many of them propagated by the artist herself, that she would stay up for days on end with this kind of brushstroke and a huge canvas, literally doing exactly what I'm doing right now for 3 days straight. Now, whether that's actually true or not, well, maybe we'll find out, maybe not. But regardless, what I'd like you to try to do here is really lose yourself in the serial activity here as a way to quiet the mind. Now, I'm talking here and trying to describe what I'm doing, but very likely in the studio, if you can really
let's talk about what we was talking about outside. I'm probably like a little uncomfortable right now because we can't light up. So they set up the face-off in this environment where we can't smoke. You don't smoke, you smoke cigarettes. So you don't really know what it's like. You smoke? You was outside smoking, right? You smoke? I don't fuck with this shit in here not being able to smoke, man. We got a book venue.
What just happened?
What?
Why did you do that? I don't understand. What just happened?
What you talking about?
I don't know why you said that.
Because he nervous.
Nah, I'm just...
to argue about something, you know, whether, you know, I even accused her of cheating on me, you know, with some of her PhD friends. And this was ongoing, you know, for months. And eventually it got to the point where I had a lot of time on my hands.
Do you feel like you took it too far though, putting that picture up and everything, and like, okay, maybe that was.
Well, you know what was funny is because I actually didn't make that picture. A fan made the picture, and I just posted being humorous, like because of the whole Mayweather fight. It wasn't like, oh, she's battered and bruised up. Let me da-da-da-da-da. Like that's not even my style. You feel what I'm saying? And that wasn't even a big deal until her fans made it. You know what I'm saying? Like even when nobody talked about that.
I'm like Jay-Z. One's not enough, I need two. Woo! So, that's what you go, you know what I'm saying? I'm not afraid of brain freeze. I know what you're thinking, but you know what I'm saying? Brain freeze is real for the people who are not used to it though. But you know what I'm saying? This brain is bioengineered on the molecular level, okay? You know what I'm saying? My brain was built in Siberia somewhere, you know what I'm saying? I'm the Black Winter Soldier, if you didn't realize it, you know what I'm saying? Even though I missed the Avengers movie, I let Bucky take my place, but you know, it's all good. You know what I'm saying? You know.
Would there have been towns in...
Well, in Nigeria, you have some of West Africa's earliest art traditions. You have the so-called Nok culture, which is in central Nigeria, around the Jos Plateau area. We have a very sophisticated figurative art tradition, terracotta tradition, by about 800 BC. And this is going hand in hand with early iron metallurgy in that area.
So these civilizations were every bit as sophisticated as anything in Britain?
At that time, yes. And it's one of the great pities. This is sort of something which does not really feature much in European or indeed American secondary school curriculum.
Is there a movement in Africa to rediscover this as an academic discipline, or not sufficiently?
Well, there are probably not sufficient practitioners for the amount of space and the amount of heritage, the amount of archaeology that has to be interfaced with, but at least in most African school systems, aspects of this past are taught. But again, not so much.
So if you come up to the Middle Ages or the pre-industrial era, do you go up, do you study?
I work right up until the 19th century, so yes.
So at that time, before the colonial invasion of Africa, where we think history began, there were sophisticated governance structures, there were towns, there was art, there was ceramics, there was...
technology, you know, outstanding metalworking. Yeah, there was all of that. And I think perhaps the European land grab for Africa in the 19th century came at the wrong time for Africa. A few centuries before, when Africa was at the height of its own internal empires, I would think that at that point any European attempt to control Africa would have been repulsed.
Very often your symptoms of depression can improve over time with what we call good old-fashioned social support. Now, I'm not advocating that people not see professional help, but I do want to put the word out there that emphasizes your point that community, you know, people, one-on-one conversation can have an impact on the symptoms. What puts us at risk as black men is when we work ourselves into, so we paint ourselves into a corner of social isolation. We are alone at the very time that we really need to be reaching out to others.
That's a very good point, especially in the senior citizen age groups and populations, they suffer most from desocialization than anybody in our society.
Yes.
So you take an elderly black man who's in this situation with an issue, he's going to suffer even more.
Yeah.
I think that's an excellent point.
Yeah.